Thanks, everybody. Just to give you a bit of background about this play and the development of this play and what it really touches on. I work for a company called Golder Associates in South Africa, and we are involved in a lot of climate change research and work and the development of adaptation strategies for food security and water and sanitation and a whole variety of very complex issues. And one of the things that we have learned is that social communication is a very tricky thing, and it's often very difficult to communicate scientific messages to people without taking into account their own concepts of reality and their own understanding of culture and social histories and all these things. So we also found that in developing adaptation strategies, you cannot leave those components out. So if we really want to make things sustainable, we need to be able to work with local communities in identifying what their belief systems are and how climate change affects that, and to together develop a way of having truly sustainable adaptation strategies. So this play is pretty much the story of the work that we are doing, but it's done in a very different way. I thought it would be fun and a really good example of how we use theatre to communicate messages. And to really, I want you to be touched in the heart by it. I think that often we look at climate change as a very scientific thing, and it's something that doesn't have a lot of meaning to me personally and to other people in their communities. And this is an example of how we can use theatre and the creative arts to really touch the minds and the hearts of people and to bring them together to develop adaptation strategies. So, I hope that you enjoy it. Just one note, I've had really bad luck with the presentation component of this. So if it randomly just does something odd in the middle of the show, just try and ignore it. But this is the first time we've got it working so far, so I hope that it all comes okay. All right. This land was not always so strange. These skies were not always so restless. The ancestors were not always so angry. There was a time, many years ago, when the earth was quiet, and the rhythms of the world were gentle like a mother's song. We knew the seasons, and our ancient ceremonies followed their yearly cycles. The rains nourished us, the sun blessed us. I was young then. I did not understand any of it. We were told that the times were changing. Across the land, many of our shamans had seen the signs and announced that there would be a time of change, a time of struggle for our people. But we did not understand. And there were those among us who did not believe in the visions of old soothsayers. But when the scientists arrived in their big cars and hurried to speak with the elders of the village, we began to realize that the signs were true. The scientists looked worried. They spoke to the elders for a long time and then came to meet us at the village court. The chief greeted us and introduced the guests. We were anxious to hear what they had to say. And then the woman with the computer spoke. Alrighty then. The anticipated climatic changes in KwaZulu-Natal are expected to demonstrate a 2-degree increase in temperature by the year 2050, which will rise to 4 degrees by the year 2100. Considering the dynamics of a human subtropical climate such as this, significant impacts will be felt in terms of increased disease, heat stress, floods and droughts, economic loss, damage to infrastructure, decreased food security, increased water scarcity, and high energy consumption. Based on an integrated assessment model that was developed from downscale climate scenarios, it has been determined that these changes will most significantly impact on agricultural production. While maize is commonly known as a major subsistence crop grown in rural areas, contributing 89% to household food security, it has been projected that a 2-degree increase in temperature will threaten the continued production of this crop at current yields, and a 4-degree increase will render it unproductive entirely. Considering the severe implications that this poses for food security, it is imperative that comprehensive and inclusive adaptation strategies be put in place to ensure the sustainability of local communities to the potentially devastating impacts posed by climate change. Only through such adaptation can we save innocent people from impending disaster. In other words, we are suggesting that you change your farming habits. For example, instead of maize, try sorghum. Are you translating this correctly? I don't think that they understand. Okay, people, listen please. This is a very serious matter. Your livelihoods are at stake. Your communities and other communities like you are extremely vulnerable to the adverse effects of adverse, you know, bad. Now, there are going to be some very bad changes in your environments, and not just yours, but all of our environments, but your community is particularly vulnerable to these changes. So that is why we are suggesting that you just change the way that you do things. Change the crops that you grow and the foods that you eat, and change the way that you make your sacred beer, and why are they so upset? Are you sure that you're translating this correctly? Okay, people, listen please. No one was happy with what the scientists were suggesting. We were suspicious of them, and for good reason. Change our way of life? What could be more absurd? The ancestors were already angry with us for so many decades that our people had lost their customs, lost their cultures. That was why these signs were happening. And so our shamans argued with these scientists, who again tried to explain their visions through their computers and their strange knowledge. But by then, the people had decided that we could not trust the wisdom of the white man. Only the wisdom attained by the anointed through the sacred throwing of the bones could save us from the disasters that were coming. We had to pay the debt for the sins of our forefathers. We had to work harder to be more faithful to our customs. The people from the city did not understand our ways, and we did not understand theirs. And so the day was cast into the dark cave of memory, and life continued as it had before. We grew older. There were more signs. The signs became plagues. The rains were too heavy, the winters were too cold, the summers were too hot, the lands were too wet in some places and too dry in others. The maize stopped growing, and our people were hungry. There was sickness among our villages. Many of our young men and women went to the cities to find work and came back with stories of life there. There were no plagues in the cities. It was then that we understood that we had truly offended our ancestors and that they were punishing us. Then one day the scientists returned, but this time they had some very strange people with them. Yebo, sanibonani abafowethu nadadewethu. Ngiyexolisa kodwa angikhuluma isiZulu kakhulu. My Zulu is not that good, but I hope that you will be patient with me, and I am learning. Ngiyafunda. Now, before we begin, I would just like to say that I am so happy to be here in your beautiful land, and I really am looking forward to meeting you and to learning more about you and about your community. Now, I'm here today to talk about